Good morning. This is a VirtualPBX admin training. Just getting or making sure everything's working properly here before we dive in. Just so you know, this training typically lasts for about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. We are typically here every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Just making sure we're actually broadcasting. There we go. All right, and so what you should be seeing on YouTube is the dash login page, which is just -dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get here via the VirtualPBX website, right? Just go to virtualpbx.com, mouse over support, and you should see an option on the left for dash login, and that will take you to this page. Now, to log in, you need your username, which is your email address that you used to sign up with, or that your admin used to create your user. The username is unique to each person, right? So each individual user will have their own email address. Password, hopefully that was sent to you via email. And then the account name, which is typically your company name. Obviously, if you just signed up for your own personal use, it'd be your name. Now, if for some reason, say you didn't get the email with your login information, you lost it, you simply forgot, what have you, over here towards the bottom right, if you click on Forgot Your Info, it'll flip that around. The system's going to ask you for your email address, and then you need one of the bottom two, right? So either the account name or a phone number that's on the account. Typically, the account name is easier. One thing to keep in mind for both the email address and the account name, it is case sensitive, and especially for company names, periods and commas, like punctuation matter. So if the person signed up, added the period after Inc., for example, you need to ensure it's in the account name. Then you click on Reset Password. The system will send you an email and basically let you log in to change your email, or sorry, to change your password. Once you've changed your password, the system will log you back out and make you log in with that new password. And for most people, I'd say click on the Remember Me, and that way you don't have to remember yet another password in your life. And we'll go ahead and get signed in here. Now, initially, I'm going to get here right to the dashboard, but if this is your first time logging into Dash, then you're actually going to be taken to a page that looks like this. Right, this will be your account settings. You can change your username, your email address, your password, your time zone. As a system admin, over here on the left, you can also click on the account settings, so you can change the time zone for the entire account. Now, I'm on a test account, right, that's been around for a while, but for your accounts, you'll have another section underneath where it says user here on the left for your billing information. So you can update credit card information, you can look at your service plan, you can look at previous invoices. Now, that first time logging in, you're also going to have the wizard pop up, giving you highlights about what things are. So when you're done with the wizard or done in here, just click close over here to the top right, and now you'll be here on the dashboard. Now, up top here, you click on your name. You can always get back to that account information page. This here is D&D, Do Not Disturb. So you can toggle this on or off. Basically, if you turn it on, it means calls aren't going to get to you. Right? They're either going to get to voicemail if they're going directly to your user. If you're in a queue, you're not going to be offered queue calls. So that's something to keep an eye on. The little help icon here, question mark, you've got 4 fields. So the first one here, contact us, that opens up the chat window so you can get to our support team via chat. the Learn More takes you to the support pages, so you can look up various guides we have on the site. The web phone, this only shows up after you've set up a web phone on your user, and then it's the next time you log into Dash. But basically, the web phone is a kind of soft phone that you can use Chrome or Firefox on a computer, right? So desktop or laptop, to make and receive calls. Right? So you have to have an active internet connection. And then here's the online store that goes to our web store where you can buy a VoIP phone or the VirtualPBX soft phone app for the desktop, routers, headsets, etc. Here we've got the menu icon, or the three horizontal line hamburger icon is what we also call it sometimes. These take you to other features of Dash, basically non-core or sometimes more powerful versions in some cases. And then you have the logout icon. Over here on the left, these are essentially the core features of Dash, and we'll be going through all of these. For any feature that is plan specific, right? So it's only on some plans and not others, or has an add-on fee, I will try to make sure to note that as we go through, and that way you can, and who you would need to talk to verify the pricing, which is typically account services. All right, and here in the middle, we've got your total users, right? So I have 21 people. Now, depending on your plan, adding users may increase your bill, right? There are some plans that are user-based, others that are minute-based. So something to keep in mind. Total devices, and then a breakdown. So here I've got cell phone, fairly self-explanatory. Web phone, which we just talked about. Soft phone, so this would be any soft phone on the account, whether that's a VirtualPBX soft phone app or you're using a soft phone from, say, Counterpath or Zapier, or even if you used it to program a VoIP phone that wasn't on our provisionable list, excuse me. SIP phone, this is a physical VoIP phone, right? So it's on a desk. These are auto-provisioned on the service, which we will get into. And then landline, pretty self-explanatory. The unregistered devices, right? The system knows that 13 of my VoIP devices aren't connected. That could be simply because someone didn't turn on their phone or didn't properly plug it in. They could be having a network problem, or the ISP could be down, or anything of that nature. Total numbers, 44. So on your plan includes anywhere from 1 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. If you go over that allotment, I believe it's anywhere from $1.99 to $4.99 per month per phone number. So that's, again, so I'm paying for extra phone numbers at this point. Now, down here, we got a breakdown. I've got assigned numbers and spare numbers. So an assigned number means it's going someplace, right? A customer can call that number and get to either a person or a voicemail box or a fax box. They're sending to a fax box. But basically, it's a number you're using. All right, spare number on your account, but you're not using it. It doesn't go anywhere. Now, even if say your allotment is 15 phone numbers on your account, you have 2 active numbers and say 10 spare numbers, that still counts towards your total allotment, right? Spare numbers still count as part of your numbers on your account. Now, the reason you would have spare numbers is, let's say you bought like 10 numbers in sequence, right? And you just haven't gotten to the last bunch. Or you have numbers that you use for particular advertising campaigns, and when those campaigns are over, you put them in spare numbers. That way you don't get calls about a campaign that's no longer active, or just random robodialers calling into a number that's you're not using right now. All right, the other breakdown we have here is USDID and US toll-free, right? So toll-free, 800 number, right? All the way down from 888, 877, all the way down to 833 currently, right? This is actually good for Canada as well, right? USDID, that just means a US local number, right? So a number, say, in San Jose, California, versus, say, a number in Dallas, Texas, or in Elmira, New York, or anywhere in between. If you're interested in international phone numbers, then you're going to want to email our porting team. That's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a phone number in, and they'll let you know if there are additional requirements. Right? Some countries, like Germany, for example, require proof of presence, like a utility bill, before they'll release a number. And that proof of presence has to be within that same city you're requesting a number in. So then in that case, you would have another section here for international numbers. All right, conference bridges, 5. That means I've enabled 5 of my users to host or moderate a conference. Now, I'm not able to do that or enable that feature unless I've already assigned a conference number. So over here on the right, we've got our main numbers. So these 3 phone numbers right here, these numbers all act the same way, right? They're all going to go to the same location. And for instance, they would all have the same main greeting play. Conference number goes right into the conference room. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you wish. Basically, anyone who's joining the conference, whether they're on your staff or outside of your company, they dial that number, and they enter the conference room number and the PIN number, and then they're in the conference. Fax box number. This enables faxing on your system, and this number is where you're receiving faxes on. And by default, you can just have the one fax box number. The company directory, this is a download link that downloads a text file, so it shows your staff members with their extension numbers. And then next up, we've got the soft phone directory. So if you're making use of the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application, you can download this file and then upload it to that app. And you'll be able to see all your other staff members who have the VirtualPBX soft phone app and their status in relation to that app. Right? So right now, I can look at my soft phone and I can see, my coworker Mike is on a call. So I'm like, okay, well, there's no point in calling him right now. Right? But I can see, oh, my other coworker, Duke, is not on a call, and I still need to talk to him about something, so I could just call him. All right, store discount code, right here. Just by being a Dash customer, you get a discount in anything you buy through the online store. And then the account realm. The realm is used for a couple of different things. First and foremost, it's for programming a third-party application or device, right? So if you're using a soft phone from Counterpath, for example, the account realm is one of the pieces of information you would need to get that application to work with us. And the other place where you use the account realm is to send a fax out. So on Dash, currently, faxing out is an email to fax service. So you create an email, and in the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone where you're faxing to, little @ symbol, and then you put your account realm. And then that email, you attach a PDF or a TIFF file, and you click send. In that email, there's no point in typing in the body of the email. The system is not sending the email. It's only grabbing the attachment to send as a fax. There is a bit of a time lag between you sending that email and you getting a confirmation on whether the fax went out or not. Basically, the system's processing it and then connecting out. The largest file I've been able to fax out was 7 megabytes. That took me over an hour to get that notification that it went through. So that's something to bear in mind. Most people don't fax files that large, so not usually a big deal. All right, up here, we got the caller ID. This is your company caller ID. This is your default phone number, essentially. Now, unfortunately, my streaming software doesn't always show the pull downs, but you can select any of your main company numbers, and this will show up as the outbound caller ID for any of your VoIP phones by default. All right, then down here, we've got your company caller ID name. CNAME is the industry term, or CNOM. This is 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. This shows up, basically, we send this out as part of your caller ID information. When you click to save changes, this CNAME information is sent to the other carriers who support CNAME. They update their databases in relation to this phone number. So that way, when they see a call coming in from this phone number, they say, oh, we attached this CNAME to it, and then pass on the call. Some things to keep in mind: CNAME is not supported by every carrier that a call can go through. That's typically the smaller or regional carriers that don't support CNAME, right? Any big name carriers you've heard of, AT&T, that, et cetera, they support CNAME. It's the smaller ones that you have to be worried about in that case. And so what this does is this is the provisioning side of CNAME, right? So we're providing the information. Delivery is actually handled by the device that's getting the call, right? Their service provider they have to deliver the information ultimately. So like if you're sending a call to a cell phone, right, the cell phone carrier decides what shows up on that cell phone's display, right? If you've ever noticed, sometimes you may get a call that says telemarketer or spam risk, right? Your cell phone carrier has determined that, and that's why they post that on your phone, so as a service to you. And in terms of testing calls with CNAME to cell phones, that can be problematic just because, like some cell phone carriers, they provide CNAME but as a paid service, right? So it's an additional fee every month. Others don't provide it at all, so your mileage may vary. Even for the carriers who do support CNAME, it's not a high priority, right? Their first priority is connect the call, and then the caller ID, and then lastly CNAME. So if they have heavier than expected call volume for whatever reasons, the CNAME information is probably not going to get through. And obviously, if they're having an outage, they're, again, more concerned about getting a call connected. The company emergency information, or E911. This would be the information. You want to put a physical address here. This is the information get transmitted to emergency services if someone picks up a VoIP phone and dials 911. So obviously, you want to make sure this is accurate. This E911 is associated per phone number. So if you have multiple phone numbers, you can have different addresses, and then you can assign the E911 information to each of your VoIP devices so that they're correct. Hold music. On Dash, you can upload your own hold music. Now, hold music is defined as once a caller has gotten to a user and that user has pushed hold on their VoIP phone. That's when hold music will play. So on Dash, you can upload a .wav, .wav, or .mp3 file. You want to make sure that file is under 1 megabyte. We recommend that you record it in mono. 16-bit PCM, I believe, is our typical recommended format. But you would click on Browse to find the file. There you go. I could select that file, for example. And then I would click the little up arrow here. I would get a progress bar, and then once that's done, I would click on Save Changes. All right, hours is actually part of main number, so we're going to just go to main number and dive in there. All right, so up here at the top, we got the main company numbers, right? So these are those three main numbers that we were looking at earlier. Now, if you want to add a number here, you can add from your spare numbers, right? So these are your extra numbers on your account, right? Just put a check bar, and you can add it to the account, or you can buy new numbers. So if you buy a local number, right, you just need to search by area code. So let's go with, see if anything's in 323. And here you see a list of available numbers. If you scroll down, if more numbers are available, the list will expand. Looks like it didn't expand that much. But any number you're interested in, you would just click on Add, and it adds to your cart. You can delete it from the cart, or you can simply buy a number. So now the system is making sure that number was truly available, because it's a dynamic list, and then it's adding it to your account and into this specific spot, right? So anywhere you can add a number, it's that same process. You just look up the number, and then you can add it, right? Toll-free, a little simpler because you just choose the toll-free prefix you want to use, and you would click search, and then again, same process. You can scroll down till you find a number you like, and then add it to the cart, click on buy, etc. Now, any of these phone numbers, you can click on the little gear icon, right? You can set up caller ID, so you can set up different CNAMs for each of your different phone numbers, as well as turn on incoming CNAM information, right? So that way your staff members can see the inbound CNAM. Here's where you would add the E911 for these individual phone numbers. Prepend is a VoIP feature. So for any of your VoIP phone users, when you have prepend, you're basically putting additional text that shows up on their phone's display along with the caller ID, right? So I would see San Jose and then the inbound person's phone number. So I know, oh, this came in on the San Jose number, and it's related to our San Jose office or promotion or what have you. Next up, we have the office hours strategy. So by default, new signups or new customers, you're starting off at 24-hour open office, meaning, hey, your system's ready to take calls. Most of our customers end up going 24-hour open office, custom office hours, once they figure out what they want to do. For each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark, and then you set your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have, towards the bottom, an option to say if you're closed for lunch or not. If you do put a check mark saying that you're closed for lunch, then you can input your lunch hours. That is purely up to you. Next up, we've got office holidays. So if you're closed for holidays, you put a check mark here on the left. And then over to the right, you click on Add Holiday. You have your options here for single day, date ranged, or advanced. Each one of those will create a new line, and then you enter in a name for it, so like President's Day, and you put in the date, right, February 15th, in case for this past year. Date range, it's like up here we have for Christmas. Say, hey, start on December 23rd, end on December 26th. The main concern about date range, since there's no year indicator for any holiday, you do not want a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. You'd want to do those as single day. And then for advanced, it's like we have here for retreat. And then you put July, you put the month, and then this pull down goes first through fourth as well as last, and then day of the week, right? So the first Friday in July, I'm saying, hey, we're closed because it's company picnic day. And any changes, you click on Save Changes. All right, next up, we've got incoming call handling. Now, this is for my main numbers, right? So I just added a fourth one. So all these numbers, they're all coming in, and right now, during my open hours, they're going to my virtual receptionist. Right? During my lunch hours, I can have them go to a virtual receptionist or one of these other options, right? After hours and holidays. And holidays, I typically see something more like this. All right, so during my open hours, calls are coming in, they're going to the virtual receptionist. This is a link, and I'll click on that to open it up here. So over on my left, this is your main menu. So this is what people press on their phone to navigate through their phone system, right, to get to departments, etc. On my right here, the first section here is greetings. So I can change my greetings, basically say thank you for calling, and give my customers instructions, right, in terms of, press 1 for the directory, press 2 to my support team, press 3 to leave a voicemail, press 4 to go to my billing team, etc. And then down here we have our settings. Now, in terms of the main menu, most of the time, or at least on new accounts, you won't have anything set here, right? So you would click on Add Route. So you've got a default route as well as star and then 0 through 9 that you can choose from. And then this pull down here shows you where you can go, right? Where you can select caller skill. So we'll go up to here. So you can send any menu option to a specific user, right? So you want it to go to Bob or whoever. You can send it to any of your call queues. Now, call queues are an add-on feature. I believe it starts at $15 per month. You'd want to talk to our account services team about that. You can send it to a specific device. We don't typically recommend that just because if the device doesn't pick up, then the call ends. So that can be problematic. You can send it to a media file, right? So greeting file plays. Again, we don't typically recommend that because once the greeting file ends, the call ends. Scroll down here. Groups, these are departments. These are ACD queues and groups are related. Basically, queues have more options in terms of how to route. Advanced call flows, this is other auto attendants. So if your account includes multiple auto attendants, you can also then make use of what's called submenuing. So for instance, you could say, hey, press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. And each one of those two options are submenus, right? So they actually go to their own auto attendants, and like the English one would have an English greeting with, and then its own options. The Spanish option would have a Spanish greeting with its own set of menu options, likely going to Spanish-speaking staff members. And then you can also send callers to a voicemail box. Now, in terms of greetings, you have text-to-speech, right? You just type it in. It's going to be a computerized or robotic voice. I usually recommend this for people, like basically startup companies, people who aren't used to a PBX system before, just to get your feet wet, to get understanding of how it works, and it's easy to adjust and change, and you're not being charged for it. Upload your own file. Again, you can choose a .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. You would just click update, then save, and save changes. You can choose from any existing recording, right? So anything that you already have on the on your system. You can record it over the phone. Now, by default, the system says pick up a registered phone on this account. What that means is pick up a VoIP phone that's associated with the account. But then you would dial your main number, and then you would enter this PIN number. Now, this PIN number is specific to this time of day, right? So we're in our open hours. So this PIN number only works during my open hours, right? So that means I can only change it during my open hours. Same for after hours, lunch, etc. So you would call in, and if you don't have a greeting in place, the system will tell you there's no greeting set up for this menu. You would enter in the PIN number. It will walk you through recording a greeting. If you already have a greeting in place, right? So greeting A plays, right? You can still enter in the PIN number. The system will still walk you through recording a greeting. However, the file name greeting A stays the same. You just overwrite it with whatever you're recording with. So if you wanted to keep greeting A, the original greeting A, you would actually need to unassign it first and put something else in place and then record, or just upload a file. Now, if you wanted to record using a cell phone or landline, then what you want to do down here is go down to where the settings, and where it says allow outside recording. You'd want to turn this on, right? Click save and then save changes. So now you can call in with a cell phone or landline and still enter in that PIN number and record it that way. And then you don't have to use a VoIP phone. Right? That's typically off just so someone doesn't randomly try to enter PIN numbers and then changes your greeting on you. All right, professional recording services. If you click order, this will take you to another website hosted by Snap Recordings. They have something like about 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They have various versions of English, Spanish, and French, so you can do multilingual greetings. They also have what they refer to as hold treatment, which is a mix of a music file and a script being read, right? So they handle their own billing. They'll deliver to you typically via email, and then you would simply just upload. All right, let's go over the rest of these settings here. So number of retries on missed dial. Basically, how many times are you letting someone mess up when they call in, right? So someone calls in and they press 5, right? That's not a valid option. After that, then the system, in this case, I have it at 0. So the system would then send them to this default route that I just added, right? If I didn't have a default route, then the system would end the call. Now, dialing timeout. This is how long the system waits after it hears a button press before it assumes the caller is done, right? So I call in, I hit 5, the system waits for 1 second, it doesn't hear another tone, says, oh, that's what you meant. And in this case, it says that's an invalid entry and ends the call. All right, and then, allow dialing extensions if you turn this on. If I know the extension that I'm trying to reach, then I can enter that extension number instead of one of these menu options, right? If I turn this off, I can only enter in one of these main menu options. If you're getting a lot of robo-dialers on your main numbers that are going into the virtual receptionist, then I would double check to see if you have a default route going to a person or voicemail box, in which case you would want to consider removing that default route. But beyond that, any changes? So without having a default route, basically what you're doing is you're making the inbound caller press a menu option or enter an extension number. Right? A robo-dialer can't do that. It doesn't have fingers. It doesn't know what tones to send. Whereas your actual customers, right, they're people, they can press a menu option to speak to someone or the extension number that they know they want to speak to. Right. So if you make any changes under main menu, greetings, or settings, you want to click Save, and then you want to click Save Changes under Incoming Call Handling. All right, next option here. Call comes in, I'm offering it to Bob. If Bob doesn't pick up, it goes to the virtual receptionist, right? This virtual receptionist is still the same, right? Because we're still under open hours. But the point here is that we're trying to offer it to a staff member. Or if I send it to, say, a ring group, way down here, right? Then I can send it to multiple staff members. Now, when the call comes in, it's only offered to either the member, the person, whatever option you select here, for 20 seconds. After the 20 seconds, then the call gets sent to the virtual receptionist. All right, but you can send it to an advanced call flow. You can send it to groups, a media file, which I would think would be a little confusing, just because you would have your virtual receptionist greeting file play immediately thereafter. You can send it to a device. You can send it to a user, etc. Option 3, call comes in, being offered to Bob. Again, you have basically the same options, right? But if Bob doesn't pick up, then it goes to Bob's voicemail. The additional option I have up here at the very bottom is skip to voicemail. Basically, call comes in, send it straight to the voicemail box. So this is what I would typically see under holidays. So it's like, hey, we're going to be closed. You can set it to right to the voicemail box. And then your voicemail box, you just put in a greeting saying, hey, we're closed for the holidays. Please leave us a message. All right, option 3, call comes in, and then send it to one of my alternate attendants. Typically not recommended. Because if you're going to send it to the alternate attendant, you might as well make that alternate attendant your main attendant. Right, so move the phone numbers over here, and then just use your virtual receptionist. Now, the virtual receptionist for each of these other tabs is going to be different, right? Unique to each one. That way you can have, say, a different greeting for lunch time versus your after hours. But you can have the different routing for each time as well. Purely up to you. Right. Main conference number. You can add additional from spare numbers or buy new numbers. You can do a custom greeting. Now, this is a text-to-speech greeting, so you just enter it in and type in whatever you want to say and click on Save. Even without the custom greeting, the system says, thank you for joining the conference. Please enter your conference room number and then ask for the PIN number. Main fax box number. You can, again, for you, when you just signed up, you're not going to have one, so you would either add from spare number or buy a new number. And then you can click Edit Fax Box. Now, unfortunately, on this account, the fax box is broken. But on your account, when you click on Edit Fax Box, you'll get a box come up with 2 fields. The first field is for the inbound notification. Right? You put in the email address. That person gets an email whenever an inbound fax comes in. They'll also get an email on a failed inbound fax attempt. Right? So someone calls your fax box number, here's fax tones, and hung up. You will still get an email saying, hey, we had a failed fax attempt. It could also be a legitimate fax attempt that did not come in, but usually what we see is someone called it and go, oh, I got the wrong number. The other field you have is for the outbound permissions for faxing. So like you could put an email address in there, or what's more commonly done is you can put your company email domain in that field. So therefore, anyone at your company can send a fax out. They don't have to be a user on your Dash account. They just have to know the format, right? That +1 area code and phone number, @ symbol, and then your account realm, and simply attach a PDF. All right, auto attendance. So this is a plan-specific feature. If this is something you're interested in, you're going to want to speak to our account services team. And there are two main ways you would make use of multiple auto attendants. The first is you have multiple businesses with their own phone numbers and their own greetings, right? But your same staff members are accessing the calls or answering those calls, right? So multiple businesses, one account is the most common use that we see for multiple attendants. And the other one I already touched on, which is submenuing, right? So you want to have a main menu, and then you want to have additional menus beneath that first menu, right? So you have basically a bigger tree of call options. Currently, on multiple attendants, I believe we're still limited to 10 total attendants. To create an attendant, you would click Add Attendant. You give it a name and then an extension number. And if you need, and it needs to be a unique extension number. So if you click on Find One, it'll show you your used extensions, or you can just search just to make sure you're not reusing one. In this case, the system is recommending 1003, as that's an open extension number. And then you click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, you can click on the name. Now you have the option to delete, and then the other option here, unavailable in main menu. If I leave it this way, that means it's a standalone attendant, meaning it's probably a separate business, right? If I click on this, then it flips it to be available in main menu. That means it's available in any of my other attendants as a menu option, right? So I'm going to use it as a submenu. If you click on the phone number box, you can add from spare, buy new numbers. Attendants can have multiple phone numbers. Oh, you can also click on the gear icon here for the number, so you can do the caller ID, prepend, etc. Extensions, you can add multiple extensions to an attendant if you want to. And then if you click on the little wrench icon underneath settings, you'll see, okay, now this is how that call is going to route. Now, the open hours, lunch hours, after hours, holidays, all of this information matches what you set up under main number, right? So this company can have the same open hours as I set up under main number. Same with my holidays, etc. In terms of the routing, right, once you click on the virtual receptionist, this will have its own options, right? So 1 and 2, I can click more options. You can say, let's change this up just a little bit here. All right, so now I'm sending it to the sales group, right? I can have its own, it will have its own greeting. I click on save and save changes. Pretty straightforward there. All right, devices. This is where you add devices to your account. Green means it's connected, right? Registered to us. Red means not registered / not connected. Black means you've disabled it, right? If you click it on, it'll update, and now it's this one's green. To add a device, click up here, click Add Device, and then you have these options. First one is SIP phone, right? So this is that physical VoIP phone. You find your manufacturer, and then you find the model of the phone you're working with, and then you need to give it a name, right? So Bob's phone, and then you can enter the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each device, right? Usually a sticker on the back, or if you have it plugged in usually under like menu status, it's one of the things that shows up there. Then you would click on Create Device, and then you would add the device to a user. In terms of the dashboard here, you're done, but you actually need to log into the phone's web user interface, the web UI. You need to get to this auto provisioning section and add a URL. For those specific instructions, you're going to want to go on our support pages and look under VoIP phones on the right-hand side. You're looking for auto provisioning phones. It'll have screenshots as well as the URL you need to enter in. Once you've entered in that URL, you click to confirm or save, and then usually there's an auto provision now button. The phone then goes on the internet, gets that URL, gets its config file. It's going to reboot a couple of times typically, and then it should show up green on your system here, and then you're ready to make use of that phone. Cell phone and landline are essentially the same. You give it a name, you put +1, right, the plus sign, the number 1, area code and phone number, and then you assign it to one of your staff members, and then you click on Create Device. Now, under options, this is how a device looks after it's been added by default. So when Dash sends a call to a cell phone or landline, right, the phone's going to ring, you'll pick up. When you pick up, you're going to hear, "This is a forwarded call. Please press 1. By pressing 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. It then connects the call to you. You begin speaking. Now, if in actuality, say you're sending a call to an automated answering service, right, that automated answering service can't press 1. So what you would want to do here is put a check mark here for allow use of cell phone voicemail or landline's voicemail. So now we send the call to that phone number. We hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? We're not waiting for anyone to press 1. In this case, if we're actually sending it to a cell phone, and you have it set up this way, if your cell phone voicemail picks up, we still treat that like a connected call, so the inbound caller ends up on your cell phone's voicemail box. Right? Some people want that, some people don't. All right, and then the other thing that comes up is keep original caller ID. Now, with this checked, what happens is, say, customer Mary is giving you a call, going to your cell phone, you look at your cell phone, I don't recognize the number. I don't feel like taking it, right? Because you've been getting a lot of those calls for the extended car warranty or the Nigerian prince or whatever. So call goes to voicemail, you check it later, maybe you're not able, you basically start playing phone tag with Mary. Now, if you uncheck this, then what happens is you get the main company phone number shows up on your caller ID, right? So let me close this, right? That main company number, what I mean by that is what we set up under here, under the caller ID. This phone number here, that's the phone number that shows up on your cell phone's display. So whatever phone number you select of your main numbers, right? So that's a way to let you know, oh, this is a work call. I can take it. Let me go ahead and answer it right away. All right, soft phone. First, you get the little warning message saying, hey, because of wireless technology, calling 911 may not be advisable because you may not be where or at the address that the system thinks you're at. But then here you are. It starts you off as using a third-party application or device. So you would give it a name. Now, so say you're using, say, Zoipier, the soft phone app, right? You would copy the SIP username. If you click on the SIP password box, you would then copy this SIP password and this account realm. And you'd use those 3 pieces of information to set up Zoipier to work with us, right? So you can make and receive calls. And then you would assign it to a staff member. Click on Create Device. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone app, right here, where it says Use Third-Party Application, just click on that. It flips it. So now you give it a device name and you assign it to a user. Then you click on Create Device. So once you do that, then that user that you assign soft phone to gets an email saying, hey, your soft phone's ready. Here's your login information. Right, so they have an email, they have their username, their password. Then they just, if they're going to use it, say, on their Android phone or their iPhone, they just need to go to the App Store and download VPBX Phone, and they can log in, and they should be good to go. If you're going to use the desktop app, then you would need to buy it from the online store. There's a license fee involved, and then you'll get a download link. Then you can install it, and then you have the username and password to log in. Web phone. Again, it gets that wireless message, but you give it a name, you assign it to an owner, you click on Create Device. The web phone, to log in, it uses your dash login information, right? So your same username, your same password, and then your account name, right? And you just go to webphone.virtualpbx.net, using either Chrome or Firefox. Use those login credentials, and then you can use that to make and receive calls. All right, so the Greetings Manager, it shows your greetings on the account. You've got the name, the source. TTS is text-to-speech. Recording means you recorded over the phone, and then upload means you uploaded the file. You can download the file to your computer, and that way you can listen to it, see if it's still relevant. If you click on the little wrench icon here, you can change the name of the file or just get rid of it completely. You also have up here the option to add a file, meaning you can upload a file, give it a name, find the file, and then you would click on Create Greetings, so then it would upload it to your greetings group list here. Groups is short for ring groups. Now, groups are a standard feature, so there's no additional fee associated with them. Creating a group, you click on Add Group. You give it a name, you give it an extension number, and then you click and drag everyone you want to be in the group. All right, once you have everyone, you click on Create Group. And then you can click on the name. All right, you can always change the name. And then you have the group call attempts. And if you look over here, there's little up and down arrows. This is how many times you're letting an inbound caller try to reach everybody in the group. Right, so right now I have it set at 1, basically rings through to everyone once, and if no one picks up, then I have to hopefully have a next action set up. If you click on members, you see all the members here. Looks like I deleted a person, so I can remove them. Right, I can add additional people. Right, I can add them in. Now up here at the top, these are timestamps measured in seconds. This one here, that's your the default length. That is 120 seconds. But I can click on distribute, for example. So now I can have these calls go in sequence. Let's say I don't like that sequence. I can click and drag people around and put them in the order that I want. All right, and then click distribute again. So now it's going in this order. But these are also sliders. So I could do what I had that earlier set up, or referred to as blast ringing. All right, I could also just, actually here, if I go distribute again, right, I could adjust these so that there's more overlap. Oops. Or anything like that. And then any changes, you just click on Save Changes. Groups can have extension numbers, and they get multiple extension numbers. They can also have their own phone number, right? So you can add from spare or buy new. So one advantage of groups is that you can receive calls on basically any device, right? Landline, cell phone, VoIP phone, you can receive a call. Downside is that your staff members cannot log in or out of the group. Once they're in, they're in. And so they're always going to get calls as long as the system is open. Right? As long as calls are getting into it, those phones will ring. Next up is group features. Bring back, this is essentially hold music. If you enable it, you can upload a file, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. you just want to make sure this file is as long or longer than your ring time of the group, right? The system's not going to loop the file for you. So say, for instance, I uploaded a file that's only 60 seconds long, but my total ring time is 120. Well, after 60 seconds, right, the system doesn't have ring back to play anymore, so it ends the call or goes to next action. Speaking of, next action. If no one picks up, what do you want to do with the call, right? So you can send it back to your main menu, right? You can send it to one of your alternate attendants. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a specific device. You can send it to a media file. You can send it to another group, or you can send it to a user or a voicemail box. Allow call forwarding. If you enable it, that means your users can make use of call forwarding, i.e. they're not going to be at their normal desk phone, so they're sending it to their cell phone, for example. Caller ID prepend. Again, prepend, it's a VoIP phone feature. You can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID, and that will show up on their VoIP phone's display. All right, so useful for your staff in multiple groups or queues, so that way they know what kind of call they're dealing with. All right, numbers. Shows the numbers on your account and where they're going. All right, so this is numbers in use. These red ones are porting attempts that haven't been cleared out yet. Spare numbers, these are your numbers that you're not using. Now, if you're over your allotment for your plan and you're not using these numbers, and you know you're not planning to use these numbers anytime soon, you can click on any that you don't want to use, and then you click on, now you have the option to delete. All right, that just popped up. So are you sure? Click on delete numbers, says success, and now I have 2 less phone numbers on my account. You can buy numbers here as well, right? Local or toll free. They would just be added here in the spare number list for you to assign later. Port, this starts the port process. You just give it a name, choose local or toll free, click on next, and then it's going to ask you to upload a bill copy, and then later it lets you download a blank letter of agency, and then you can upload a completed and signed letter of agency. So on the letter of agency, the LOA, it's going to ask you for your company information. That should match what the current carrier has on file for you. So say, for instance, you're porting a number from Comcast to VirtualPBX. Whatever Comcast has on file for that phone number, that's the business name or person's name that should be there, that address, and that person's signature. Right? We get that information, and then we submit that to basically back to them to say, hey, this is right. They let us know. We'll let you know one way or the other. So let's go back a little bit here. So when you upload the LOA and then the bill copy, right, you'll click submit. You'll get an automated email saying, hey, you've submitted your port request. Usually by the next business day, you'll get another email from our porting team saying, hey, we did get your documents, and yes, we submitted your port request. There's also some additional information of what to expect. Now, things that can go wrong, right? So if you have the wrong address, we'll get a rejected notice for that. If you didn't sign the LOA, or like you say Bob Smith is the authorized signature, and then in the signature field you type in Bob Smith's name again, that's going to get rejected. Those are the most common things that happen. Now, typical port request toll-free numbers usually complete in about 3 to 5 business days if everything's correct. Local numbers to be anywhere from 1 day to 2 to 3 weeks. So if you're porting a Google Voice number to us and you've already unlocked it, that normally can be completed by the next business day. Again, assuming that all the documentation is correct. Now, if for some reason you don't get those emails, or you're like things didn't upload properly, or you didn't get that submit confirmation, you can email the porting team, porting@virtualpbx.com, and you can include those documents, right? So they'll copy and the completed and signed LOA. They can still process the port request. All right, users. And total users 21. You can add user. They can enter their name. Each user has to have a unique email address for login. And then you create a password for them, and then an extension number. And you can create your own extension numbers, right? This is just, again, saying extension 1003 is the next available one. I can put in 7310 if I wanted to. Create a voicemail box for the user. That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user, which is why it's default checked. If you want to include the user directory, you can choose to do so. You can change your mind later if you want. Send to an alternate address. So this email, if you put an email address here, this will supersede this the login email address in terms of like sending voicemails, password resets, the soft phone information, etc. And then probably the most important, in my opinion, send credentials to the user. Right? Once you click on create user, this person gets an email to this email address up here saying, hey, your account has been created. Here's your login information. Right. If you need to add multiple people, just use create user and add another. Once the user is created, if you click on their, I should point out here. So Bob here, right? He's a standard user because he's got the little gray person icon. The blue suit is your system admins. If you click on their name, right, you can change their name. You can click on change credentials, so you can update their email address or their password. You also have the option here to just send them the password reset, especially if you have someone that you are different wavelengths with, so whatever password you make, they can never remember. You can here, make your own. Change PIN, this is for the voicemail box PIN number. If your staff is using pardon me, if your staff is using VoIP phones, you actually don't need to create a PIN number for them, right? From their VoIP phone, they can hit *98. That takes them directly into their voicemail box, right? Since you created it with the user at the same time. And that first time they log in that way, the system will prompt them to enter in a PIN number or create a PIN number for themselves, as well as a voicemail greeting. For your cell phone and landline users, you do need to enter in a PIN number. Again, here's your option to send to an alternate address, and then you can enter it there, as well as the user directory. Here's a pull down where you can change a user to an admin or an admin back to a user. This is a time zone. You can just do a search for the appropriate time zone in case you have staff in remote locations. This is the display language. So basically what it shows up on your web browser. French, English, German, and Russian are the options. The ringing timeout is measured in seconds. So if you're not making use of the feature called Follow Me, this is how much time the system tries to reach that person's device. So 45 seconds is a long time for a VoIP device or a landline. For a cell phone, you'd probably want it around 45 to 60 seconds. Basically, in terms of how a PBX system sends call out, right? So call comes in, hits a user. The user has if we're sending a call to a landline, right, we send the call out to that landline provider. They say, oh, we know exactly where that is. They immediately kick the call over, right, to that landline. Right, call comes in, we have to send it to a cell phone, right? We go to the cell phone provider. Cell phone provider goes, whoa, hold on a second. We need to find them first, right? Dings all the cell phone towers, finds you, then we send a call to you, right? It's that delay in terms of finding you is why you would need a longer ring time for a cell phone user than you would for someone making use of a landline. Extensions, you can have users have multiple extensions if you want. Right, phone numbers, you can have users have their own phone number. Right, you can buy local or new, or local or toll-free, or you can add from spare. Devices, right? You can see their devices here. You can add some spare devices or add a new, right? Same options as under the device page. And then user features, caller ID number. This only comes into play for people with their own phone number, right? But then you would select that phone number. So this becomes their caller ID whenever they make an outbound call from a VoIP phone. Call forwarding, you have off, on, or failover mode. Off means you're not using it. On means you are. And this is one of the features that your users can set up for themselves, right? They can get to turning it off or on via the user portal. But they select the kind of device, they put +1 area code and phone number, and then they click on Save Changes. So then basically they're saying, hey, I'm not going to be on my normal phone, send calls to this other device, right? So this device should not already be a device on the user, right? It's something they only use sporadically. Failover mode is for your VoIP phone users, right? When the system detects, hey, that phone is not registered, and a call happens to come in for that user at that time, it will automatically forward to this phone number, right? So that way you're not losing that call, and then afterwards that staff member will go, why didn't my VoIP phone ring, right? So they can check their internet connection, etc. Hot desking, if you enable this, this is a VoIP feature for use when you're in an office environment where you may be switching desks from day to day, or even shift to shift, what have you. Often like in a call center, like we have some of our team members are in a remote location, and they told me like, oh yeah, I had it where, at a previous position, they can come in the morning, be working, go to lunch, come back, someone is taken over their desk, so they had to switch to a different desk, log all back in. That's kind of how hot desking works. Basically what this is you put in a hot desk ID. I usually say just match their extension number. They sit down at the desk at the VoIP phone, they pick up the VoIP phone's handset, hit *11. That turns on hot desking. The system then asks them for the hot disk ID number. They enter that, and then the system will tell them calls will now be sent to this device. At the end of the day, they hit *12 on the phone. That turns off hot desking. So the next day I come in, let's say the first day I was sitting at desk number 7. Next time I come in, desk 7's already in use. I just keep strolling on. Hey, desk 34, sit down, do the same thing, hit *11, enter in the hot desk ID, and now I'm getting calls at this phone. Voicemail is on because it was created with the user. Fax Box, you can have users have their own Fax Box. If you click Enabled, and you can have use one of a phone number, or you can do an extension. Now, I typically recommend using a phone number. This might be a reflection of my age, but basically, when I think of faxing from a fax machine, for example, go to fax machine, enter fax number, hit send fax, document gets sent out, I go get coffee. Right now, if you use an extension number, one, you have to have a unique extension number for the fax box. Right, so you need to do a search or page through your used extensions. But once you do this, you click select extension. Right, so now it's enabled. This is my fax box extension. Now I have to tell people who fax me to call the main number, right? Then enter this extension number and then click send fax. Right, not all fax machines are easy to do that with, in terms of you can't always, maybe there's not a speaker on the fax machine or a handset to listen for a greeting and when to properly send a fax or add an extension number, or maybe they have to do a special key combination, right? So enter phone number like ***, and then maybe the extension number, and they have to hope that that's enough of a pause for the virtual receptionist to pick up the full extension number. Or electronic fax services may not allow them to send to an extension. So that's why they say, normally just use a phone number. But then you would click on Save Changes no matter what, and you're good to go. Conference Bridge. If you click enabled, that means this user can be a moderator for a conference, right? So they're one of your conference bridges. This gives them the number. As an admin, the only other thing you have to do is enter a PIN number, and then you click Save Changes. The user can change their PIN number via the user portal, which we'll be getting to in just a little bit. All right, follow me. This is for people with multiple devices. Actually, here, so when you first enable it on a user, it looks like this, right? So everything's disabled. Basically, you have to tell the system what devices you actually want to use, right? So then you uncheck them, and up here is your total ring time, right? You can change that if you need to. You can click distribute, right? Just like we did under the ring groups. All right, if I want to add this back in, oops, I can click distribute again. Music on hold, you can have your users have their own hold music. Then you upload .wav, .mp3 recorded in mono. And this will supersede the hold music you uploaded on the dashboard page. Customize call recording. So again, when you first enable it, it looks like this, right? You have to decide which kinds of calls you're actually going to record. So inbound internal means a call from a coworker, right? Someone else on your Dash account, right? Inbound external means a customer call, right? Customer Mary gave me a call, right? Outbound internal means I called a coworker. Outbound external means I called customer Mary back. And then you click on Save Changes for anyone that you want to record. And you can get to the recordings at recordings.virtualpbx.com. And then you have the option here for Do Not Disturb. All right, voicemail boxes. So your user-created voicemail boxes, right, they have their name as well as the user they're associated with. These other voicemail boxes, the main base voicemail box is created by the system automatically, so it will always be there. And then these others are ones you can manually create, right, by clicking Add Voicemail Box. You give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number, and then you can click on Create New. For any voicemail box, you can click on the wrench icon, right, so you can adjust the name, the PIN numbers, etc. If you go to Advanced under Greeting Media, you can upload a file, right, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono. And all voicemail boxes also have a temporary file. So if you have something selected under the temporary file, it will supersede the normal media file, right? So that's for the vacation voicemail message, right? Hey, I'm out of the office, blah, blah, blah. And then when that person comes back, as an admin, you can send it back to none on the temporary file, and then their normal voicemail greeting will play. Right, for a manually created voicemail box, you do want to upload a file. You can also call in and record over the phone. So if you call your main number, you hit *97, then the system will ask you for the voicemail box number, right? And then the PIN number, and then you can record over the phone. Recipients. Now, for your user voicemail boxes, they already have a built-in recipient, right? Because they already have that email address used for login. But you can add additional recipients. Just put in their email address. For a manually created voicemail box, you do want to add a recipient. One thing to keep in mind about voicemail boxes, they can hold up to 100 voice messages. After that, the voicemail box gets full and you can't add more messages. Which leads us to our next section, under options. So once you have a media file in place, right, for the greeting as well as recipients, you can click on Already Set Up. And then you want to take a look at these two settings down here. Now, if you attach a message to the email, basically what you're telling the system, hey, when I get a voicemail and you send out that notification, make sure you attach the voicemail message itself as part of that email, right? So then the person receiving it can double click on it and listen to it right from their computer. And then the other is delete after notification. If you put a check mark here, you're saying, hey, after you send out that notification, delete the voicemail message from the system. Now, if you're going to delete it from the system, you do want to make sure that you've already attached the message to the email, right? So that way you have a record of it somewhere. Now, if your staff members are good about maintaining their voicemail boxes, or they just prefer to log in over the phone or via the portal to listen to the messages, you can just uncheck this, and then up to you if you want them to have the message attached to email or not. All right, advanced routing. This always takes a little while to load. Currently, there is one available option under advanced routing. There will be some more coming in this coming year. That's what I've been told. What we have here is Direct Inward System Access, or DISA. What this does, it allows a cell phone user or landline user to call into your main number, to log in over the phone, and then make an outbound call. And when they make that outbound call, the caller ID that shows up on the recipient end is going to be your main company number, not the cell phone number that the person called in with, right? So if we enable this, it gives me a PIN number right off the bat. I usually recommend also adding an extension number to it. This gives basically two things someone has to know to be able to make use of it, versus someone guessing just a PIN number or a menu option. So what happens is, as I call into the main number from my cell phone, I enter extension 1003. The system will then ask me for the PIN number. I enter that. I'll hear dial tone. So then I enter one in the area code and phone number that I'm reaching out to, right? And then, so I'm calling customer Mary. So when customer Mary looks at her phone, instead of seeing my cell phone number, she's going to see my main company number, right? And again, that main company number on the dashboard, that's this one up here under the caller ID. Whatever number I've selected here, that's what Mary would see on her phone when I make that call from DISA. Now, for new accounts, DISA is not enabled by default. If you do want it enabled, you can send us a request and we can get that turned on for you. And the main reason for that is just because of potential fraud concerns. Right? If someone's able to figure out the PIN number, they can make outbound calls on your account, and you may not realize it right away. And then they can run up your bill. All right, next up, we have the call logs. This basically shows the call history on your account. The little green arrow to the right means that's an inbound call that came into the system. And you see here that here's the call coming into the system. Now here's the system offering a call to a device. And then you see originator canceled. That means the inbound caller hung up. All right, so before that person could answer. Let's see here. Yeah, normal clearing. Normal clearing just means the call ended normally, right? There wasn't anything unusual. Most likely it's this person hung up when they got to their main greeting. Right, if you see a yellow arrow to the left, that means it's an outbound call. The little fire hydrant here, this allows you to report a call. This will create an email with the technical details of the call. I would suggest in the body of that email to type in what you experienced or what you didn't experience, right? So like you can say on this call, hey, it said it rang to me, or like, why didn't this call get to me, right? Or let's go back to this one here. It's like, hey, this says it was offered to my phone, but my phone didn't ring. So we can try to see what happened there. Like it could be it was too short of a time if it's going to a cell phone, but we can always say, hey, well, they may have hung up before you were able to get a ring on your phone, depending on the call traffic that was going on. All right, feature codes. And I've mentioned a couple of these. Basically, dial pad keystrokes, they can make use of various features like hot desking, as well as the voicemail ones here. These are also available on the website, so you don't have to log in to look at them. There's the feature codes document. There's also it's a phone commands cheat sheet on the website that's more condensed, and you can find the details there. All right, so we've been on the dashboard this whole time. Let's go over to ACD queues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. I believe I mentioned before that this is an add-on feature anywhere from, I believe, $15 to $30 per month. If it's something you're interested in, you probably want to double check with our account services team to make sure what price point you're at. There's also ACD Queues Pro, right, so a more robust version of this. One thing to keep in mind about ACD queues, currently you can only receive calls on a VoIP device, right? Soft phone, web phone, SIP phone, right? Not currently on cell phones or landlines. Now, adding a queue, you click Add Queue, you give it a name and a phone number or an extension number. Actually, let me just bring up an existing queue. We can see it all at once, right? So you give it a name, give it a phone number, right? So a queue can have either a phone number or an extension, right? A group can have both, right? Now both groups and queues can also show up as a menu option. Now, in terms of routing strategy, unfortunately the pull down isn't working. Most idle means whoever's been waiting the longest for a call gets the next call that comes in, right? So Bob has been waiting 5 minutes, Mary's been waiting 10 minutes, next call that comes in goes to Mary. You also have ring all, right? Means everyone at the same time, which is something you can do on the ring groups. You've got round robin, which will equalize out over time among your 8 staff members. You have least offers, so least amount of offered calls, right? Whether they've been answered or not. So let's say Bob's been offered 20 calls, Mary's been offered 5 calls. Next call that comes in under least offers goes to Mary. Then there's also least calls, least amount of connected or answered calls. So let's say in that scenario where Bob's been offered 20, let's say he's only spoken to 2 people, right? So only connected to 2. Mary is 5 for 5, right? She's talked to all 5 people. Under least calls, the next call that comes in goes to Bob. Now, obviously, if someone else logs in, that new person is has least calls because they have 0, so they would get the next call that comes in. All right, hold treatment. You have default music. You can upload your own file. .wav, .mp3 recorded in mono. One thing to keep in mind for ACD Queues Pro, you have more options in terms of the hold music. In terms of you can announce position or announce the expected wait time. You can have multiple media files play at different times. The queue timeout measured in seconds. This is how much time an inbound caller can wait on hold. The queue call limit. This is how many people can wait on hold. This is on top of who's already speaking to staff members, right? So if Bob and Mary are both on calls, I can have 4 additional people waiting on hold. Those 4 people can wait up to 3,600 seconds. Timeout immediately if empty. If there's no staff members logged in, and an inbound caller comes into this queue, treat them as if they've already hit 3,600 seconds. Now, escalation queue, basically an overflow queue. So you'd have a second queue. You can send callers to that second queue. And then escalation call flow after timeout. So after this 3,600 seconds, what do you want the system to do with that call? In this case, I'm sending it to a voicemail box, but you can have none, which would just end the call. All right, you can send it to one of your other attendants. You can send it to a device. You can send it to your directory. You can send it to one of your ring groups. A media file, which again, once that media file is done playing, call ends. You can send it to a specific user or a specific voicemail box. Agent behavior, agent recovery time in seconds. Basically, after they're done with the queue call, the system will wait, in this case, 30 seconds before we'll offer them another call from this queue. Right, so they have time to finish their notes in a CRM application, get a sip of water, what have you. Force away on rejected or missed. If this is enabled, that means if a staff member misses a call, the system puts them on away mode until that user puts them back makes themselves marked as ready again. Right, and then agent connect timeout measured in seconds. Basically, how much time do we try to reach that person or one of your staff members? 20 seconds. Again, because they're VoIP devices, 20 seconds is typically plenty of time. All right, over here, you've got your members icon. Now, this is all the people that are currently available to be in my queues. They're not in all of my queues. They're just the pool to draw from. If I click on Manage Members, now here are people, these are users on my account that are not yet part of the pool to be in the queues. But if I wanted to add someone, I can add Maverick here. And so now Maverick's on this side. There he is. Likewise, I can remove people from the queue. Say like their role changed, so here they don't need to be in the queues anymore. Now, if you go back to the queues, and if you click on a queue, you can add agents, right? And you just click and drag people you want to be in the queue. For ad managers, it already takes from people who are already in your agent list, right? So you just need to click and drag them over to be a manager, and then save changes. For your staff members, once you've assigned them to queues, right? So they would log into Dash, right? So dash.virtualpbx.com. They'd mouse over the menu icon and click on queues, and then they would click on begin session. So that logs them into all the queues they're assigned to. I'm obviously in 2 queues here. And then you notice here I'm red, meaning I'm away, which matches that. Now, once I'm actually ready to take calls, I click up here again. I mark all as ready. I've turned green, so now I'm ready to receive a call. Now, this little phone icon here, I select which of my devices I want to receive calls on. Again, it should only be a VoIP device since this is a queue. Right, so then let's say when it comes to lunchtime, I can just mark myself away. And then the end of my day, I would just click end session. All right, blacklists. Blacklist is an included feature, so there's no additional cost associated with them. But basically what this does is allow you to create a list of phone numbers that you don't want to allow to connect to your system. Right? So you have to know the phone numbers, but you click Edit Blacklists. To create a new list, you click Add. Otherwise, you click on an existing list. For a new list, you would give it a name. Block Anonymous, if you turn this on, that means if we don't get valid inbound caller ID, we're not allowing the call to connect. They get a busy tone. Right? Otherwise, you click on Add Number. You put +1 area code and phone number, and you just keep clicking Add for all the numbers you want to add. You would then click Save. You go back to Settings, and then you make sure that list is on the right-hand side here under Selected, and then you would click Update. So now any phone number on these 2 lists that they try to connect to any of my phone numbers, right? And whether it's a main number, goes directly to a user, what have you, they get a busy tone when they try to call it. Right. Dynamic caller ID, this is actually a plan-specific or paid feature. What this allows you to do is it gives you and your staff members the ability to change your outbound caller ID. So you can create a new rule. Right, you give it a name. You select which of your phone numbers to display as the outbound caller ID. And in this case, I'm saying, hey, I took this option 2 here. So whenever I'm dialing this area code, in this case 408, then I have this phone number show up as my outbound caller ID. Right. Or if I go down to this one here, I'm saying, hey, enter a feature code, *71. And when I do that, this is the phone number that shows up on the outbound caller ID, right? So enter *71, then one area code and phone number. That's who you're calling out to, and whoever you're calling out to, they're going to see the 702 phone number show up as the inbound call, as the caller ID of the call that's coming into them. You can only choose phone numbers that are on your account, and if this is something you're interested in and you don't see it as an option under your menu icon here, you're going to want to talk to account services. The Fax Manager, this is on every account. Basically, you can see the faxes that are going on your system, both inbound and outbound. You can also get to the email to fax logs. You can see here I got a thumbs down from this person to this phone number. You click that little eyeball here. It'll tell you, oh, it was an error converting attachment. So there might have been a problem with the attachment in some fashion. Most likely means they should, double check the attachment, make sure it's not encrypted, or it was really a PDF, and then they can try again. Monitor is also on specific plans, but basically you can see the status of your staff members, right? Green meaning they're waiting for a call, blue they're on an inbound call, red means they've marked themselves away, yellow they're on an outbound call. You can see who's available and who's busy, as well as the specific devices. The number manager, this basically takes you back to that numbers page and starts you off on spare numbers. The recording manager, that takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com, so you can see your call recordings, you can download them, play them back, etc. Reports is in beta. This is advanced reporting, so you can create your own reports to get better idea of what's going on with your call activity. If you're interested in reports, you do want to talk to our account services team, as that's restricted to particular plans. Voicemails, this is the voicemail manager. This is included. You can get to any voicemail box on the account. Right, you can see their messages, the date, who it came from, the target phone number, basically the number the person originally dialed. You can listen to it, download it. If you had a check mark, okay, hold on here. So this allows you to you can change your filter, right? You can show everything, just show the new, show the listened, show what I've just marked for deleted, etc. Once you have a check mark, you can choose how you want to mark it or just straight out delete it. This allows you to move it to the correct person, right? So you can say, nope, this voicemail message should not be for David. I'm going to send it to Jay instead. Webhooks allows you to make use of APIs to link Dash to other software. If you're interested in this, you should actually speak to our sales team. They're the ones who have the qualifying info for that. You can see some examples of what we have done with webhooks and APIs via developer.virtualpbx.com. Like we've linked things with like Slack, for example. It's quite common. Oh, and I forgot the user portal. User portal, every staff member or every user on your account has their own user portal. Now, voicemails may not always show up, right? If you delete after notification, right, there'll be no voicemails here ever. I turned it off on this particular person. You can see that this voicemail is new. Here's the date, the time, the phone number that it came from, phone number it came to. I can go listen to it. I can download it. Once I click on this, right, I can mark it as new, listened, or delete, etc. Call history, this shows like my call activity in and out. Faxes would show my fax history, although again, there's no fax boxes here. The contact list, this shows all the various users, groups, etc. within my Dash account. This is not something that a standard user can edit, right? Admins would add to it just because they're adding users or groups or attendants, etc. right? So like your sales staff would not be able to add their contact list here. All right, conference tab. Over here on the right under settings, this is where your users can adjust their PIN numbers, right? So the moderator PIN and the participant PIN. And then they also choose if they want people when they join to be muted or deafened, as well as you want entry and exit tones to play. Up here, you can invite other Dash users to your conference. You can lock the conference. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can end the call. When you're actually in a conference, you can actually mute a specific participant as well as kick a specific participant. And then settings and devices. So this is where their users can enable their call forwarding. They can enter +1 area code and phone number, etc. They can see the status of their devices. And that is everything. I'm going to hang out here for a minute or so in case anyone has questions via chat. And we'll go from there. All right, not seeing any chats come through, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you very, very much for your time today, and we will be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Have a wonderful day.